Good morning, children. Well, I'm here again. And children, I hope that you all have been paying attention, reading your chapters. And before I start, let us just say a short prayer. Dear God, help us to concentrate on our studies and also help us to do our work and pray for all the people who are sick so that they get better soon. Help us to stay safe and healthy. Amen. So children, we are going to continue the same chapter, Marching to Freedom. Of course, now you must be knowing it's a very easy chapter. And I hope everyone is paying attention to the chapters, because I've realized that there are many people who are interested and many people who aren't, because many of you are not giving me a feedback, and I'm very happy with the ones who are really taking it seriously and giving me a feedback. Now, we were talking about this, it's a chapter in Gandhiji's life, but there's a story where we have been talking about Dhani, who lived in the ashram. Like I've told you before, Gandhiji did not live in a big house, he lived in an ashram. And this boy, he used to stay with his parents in the ashram. Now a lot of Gandhiji's followers, I told you, used to come and stay in the ashram with Gandhiji. They believed in him, and since he fought for freedom against the British, so these followers also followed him and listened to what he said. So they used to come and stay in the ashram, do their own cooking, looking after the animals. So he knew this boy was looking after a small goat called Binny. Now he knew that there was something happening in the ashram. There was so much of excitement, like I told you before, when there's some celebration in the school. Isn't that there's so much of excitement, you're missing your class, you're coming to the teacher and saying, ma'am, can I go for this practice? Can I go for that practice? Same way, he knew there was something happening in the ashram. There was so much of excitement, but nobody told him. So he said, let me find out from somebody. Now, why the excitement was there, children, like I told you last class, that they were opposing the British, because the British were putting tax on the salt. Now, children, today you eat your food without salt, it's going to be terrible, isn't it? Every time when you get food and suppose there's no salt, you'll tell your mother, oh, it tastes so bad, there's no salt in the food at all. So the British government was putting a tax on the salt. And poor people can't pay. You see, the Indians were so poor that time. They were literally under the British. So Gandhiji was fighting this movement, and he wanted to have a march towards Dandi. It was called Dandi March. Dhani was very curious to know what was happening, and he wanted to find out, but nobody was telling him. And so he went to meet old Binda. Binda is one of the people who lived in the ashram, and he was responsible for looking after the vegetable garden. And then he asked Binda, Chacha, he called him like uncle. He said, Chacha, are you going, is there something happening? And where are they going? And what is happening? Then Binda told him, okay, let me tell you what is happening. Actually, they are going to go against the British for salt. And Dhani found it very funny, yeah? He said, what is there to fight for salt? He said, imagine, you have to walk through, not for a few hours, like through villages and villages to reach their Dandi. And when they reached Dandi there, they would make the salt. Now, he was quite surprised, He's saying, what? Salt? Like salt is it's supposed to be one of the cheapest commodities that we get today. Dals and all have become so expensive, but salt is very cheap. And then he said, why to walk thousands of miles away just to buy salt or to get salt? He said, salt is available at every shop. But he was told, he said, no. Binda laughed when he heard this, he laughed. He said, what a thing to say. Because actually, Dhani did not understand how serious this movement was. That's why it was called the salt movement. And he said, then Binda told him, no, Mahatma has thought of a plan. Mahatma means Mahatma Gandhi has thought of a plan so that they would all go together, walk through villages, miles and miles, and reach this place where they would make their own salt. Now children, imagine walking through villages for days. Here, you have to walk from school home and then you get tired. But here, and Gandhiji was quite old, he wasn't young, but he was doing it for the people. And Dhani said that he knew that Gandhi would be, before that also Gandhi used to be leading movements, like he led the Satyagraha. Now Satyagraha means non-violent. Nowadays children, if you notice, if you look at the news or if you look at the TV or something like that, there's so much of violence when people want something. One leader, he wants something, but then you'll see his followers all fighting among themselves, killing each other. But Gandhi didn't believe in that. He believed that there should be non-violence. Very quiet protests, go aram se, whether it took days and months, but no violence. So he said that he did the Satyagraha movement for the British, against the British rather, to get away and get independence for India. Then Binda tells him that it was not silly. It's not silly to walk all that way to get salt, because the Britishers were putting a heavy tax on the salt. And salt is something which we need. We cannot do without salt. Like I said today, children at home today, you take some dish, you don't put salt, how's the taste? You'll be the one who will say, this tastes terrible, it has got no salt. So that every Indian had to pay a tax on salt, even the poorest who couldn't afford. And like I told you before, people were very poor, they were under the British. Then Dhani became very angry. Then he realized what this British were doing. He said, and then, how you get angry at home? Same way, he was a young boy. He suddenly got very angry. And he shouted, he said, it is unfair. And upon that, Indians were not allowed to make any salt. That is not fair at all. When Mahatma Gandhi had told the British to stop the tax, they refused. So he decided to walk to Dandi and make salt. He said, we will all walk to Dandi and we will make salt. Have you understood that much? Well, because salt comes from the sea. So then he got worried. He said, they're going to walk for a month. And it wasn't easy. Gandhiji was very old. He would get very tired. And of course, then he asked what's his name? The man, that why is he not taking a bus or a train to Dandi instead of walking all that way? That he said that why walking all that way, he said that when he walked, then people would know that what he is walking for. Now if you sit in a bus and you go straight, go there, no, it doesn't work that way. He said that everyone in the world would come to know about this, about his salt movement. And then he said that as he walked, there would be, it would be shown on the TV, you could read in the newspaper that what a thing Gandhiji was doing, and all over the world they would know that how Indians were being tortured by the British and how they were fighting for their freedom. And it would put the British to shame that, how dare they treat the Indians so badly. He was very impressed. Of course, I would be impressed, you would be impressed if you suddenly heard that your father is going to fight for the country, I mean at his age, and he's not going to go by bus or train or by aeroplane, but he's going to walk miles and miles and miles to get what you want. And of course, then after he was talking with his uncle, he went looking for his father in the ashram, because then he would ask his father. So he went to the ashram, and he was very quiet the whole afternoon, you know. He was wondering, and then when he went to the thing, he saw his father. He was on the chakra. You know what the chakra is? That time they didn't have, you know, this sewing machines and all, and they used to weave in the chakra. It was a round thing like that, and everybody made their own cloth like that. Then he asked his father, are both of you going to the march? His father said he would go. Quite obvious, father said, I will have to go, most of the followers. But he said, your mother won't be going. Quite obvious, the mother has to sit at home, look after the food, and do things like that. He wouldn't be going. Only the people. Now, Mahatma Gandhi had chosen a few people. Like also in, when you have an elocution competition, or when you have a dance, anything like that. Now children, everybody is not chosen. Why? Because everybody is not good enough to participate or something, so a few are chosen. So Gandhiji also must have chosen a few followers who he knew would be able to walk with him all the way. Have you understood? It's not easy. It's going to be a long walk for days and days. That is why. So he said that. Then, and he was quite, like suppose like when you have these competitions and you are not chosen, what do you feel? You feel a little left out, isn't it? Because you feel, oh, I'm not chosen, my friend is chosen. But always remember, the ones who can really work it out are the ones who are chosen. He was upset, and then he said, I'll go and talk to Mahatma Gandhi myself now. He was so eager to take part in the march. But children, you think he would be allowed? No, I don't think so. Now, because it's not a small walk or something like that. It is for days, and it was only meant for people who could do it. So what happened is, now the next day in the morning, he got out of bed. Now he got out of bed and he went looking for Gandhiji. He went here, there and all looking for Gandhiji. First, he looked in the cow shed to see whether Gandhiji was there. Then he went into, he was following. Gandhiji was there, but he didn't say that, I'm following you, I'm going to ask. He quietly followed Gandhi. Gandhi was in the cow shed. Then he went into the garden. Then after that, Gandhiji went around looking at everything, Gandhiji decided to go back to his own house. Now, house doesn't mean a big bungalow, I said. He's got a small mud house. Then what Gandhiji said was, he sat outside on the veranda. Veranda is like somewhere you have just outside your house, a small open space where, you like to relax and all. And so, Dhani was happy. Then he said, oh, thank God, Gandhiji is there. Now I am going to go and ask him. Then, when he went to meet him, Gandhiji asked him, how is your goat? You can see there in that picture on page 80, you can see the goat over there with Dhani. So even in page 83, if you notice, he is talking to Gandhi and he's got his little goat over there. Of course, then he went to Gandhiji, and then Gandhiji asked him that how was the goat and how is your goat doing and all. And Binny, the goat's name was Binny. And he said, and then then Gandhiji told him. You see, Gandhiji didn't tell him when he was following him everywhere. But later on, Gandhiji did notice. Like in class also, when you're doing something naughty, we do notice, but we don't tell you. Then we tell you later that, oh, you are not concentrating, you are not. So like that only Gandhiji called him and asked him that why was he following him? Because Gandhiji noticed. He might have not said anything, but Gandhiji noticed him following. And then he said, I wanted to ask you something. So he said, of course. Then he was quite nervous. Like when you come, suppose you've done something, or you especially in front of the principal or the vice principal, you feel a little scared and all. So even Dhani was a little nervous, and he told him, he says, I want to go to the Dandi march with you. And then Gandhiji said, he was too small. He said, you're too small, and Dandi is about 385 kilometers. That is a long, long way off. And only like the young men, means like Dandi's father, and they could go walking. And if he went, then Gandhiji of course didn't want to disappoint him too much. So he said if he went, then who would look after his goat? Of course the goat also would miss Dandi, and of course no way could this boy go. And then after that, and he said that Mahatma Gandhi would be tired and he needs a lot of milk to drink. So Dhani realized and told him that Bini could only give milk. So he said, okay, then I'll stay back and I'll look for my goat, and then look after the goat, so that when you come back, there'll be plenty of milk to drink. So he was very happy that Gandhiji had given him a task, and he looked forward to it. Now children, have you understood the story? It is very, very simple, about a small boy, his goat, and about what he wanted to do, and how Mahatma Gandhi made him realize that whatever little work he was doing, it was very important. Now read the lesson carefully. Many of you are not reading. Make a few sentences, send it to me on my WhatsApp, learn the spellings, learn the difficult words. And now, before I end, we will please look over the comprehension in page 84 and 85, and this I will discuss in the next class. Is it fine, children? I hope you have understood everything. If you haven't, please let me know. Bye children, stay safe, take care of your parents, and concentrate on your lessons. Thank you.